Most people don't realize how much of their time is quietly slipping through the cracks until it's too late. Hours disappear into endless scrolling, mindless tasks, overthinking, or simply reacting to everyone else's needs. The first and most critical step in stopping this cycle is becoming ruthlessly aware of where your time is going. You cannot reclaim your life if you don't know what's stealing it. Identifying where your time is disappearing isn't just about tracking activities. It's about waking up to how your life is being consumed without your permission. Every time you say yes to something meaningless, you're unconsciously saying no to what actually matters. Start by observing your habits like a detective, not a critic. You don't need to feel guilty, you need to get honest. Where do you go when you're stressed or bored? How often are you multitasking just to feel productive, even if nothing meaningful gets done? What part of your day do you lose to other people's agendas, emails, meetings, and requests that don't move your life forward? Awareness is your first tool of power. The more clearly you can see the leaks, the more power you have to plug them. Look closely at how you start and end your day. Your mornings and nights shape your mindset. Are you beginning your day with clarity or with chaos? Are your evenings full of recovery and reflection or escape and distraction? You must stop letting your phone be your morning ritual and your late-night lullaby. The small habits you ignore are the exact ones that shape the trajectory of your life. Most wasted time doesn't look like wasted time. It looks like just checking something for a minute, reacting to a notification, doing someone else's urgent task, or avoiding discomfort by diving into the easiest distraction. Track your time for 3 days, not just the hours, but how you felt doing what you did. Did it drain you or fuel you? Was it on purpose or out of habit? Did it move you closer to your goals or just fill space? This kind of raw self-inquiry is not about being perfect. It's about being conscious. Because the truth is, you are either designing your time or someone else is doing it for you. If you're not choosing where your energy goes, the world will choose for you, and it will never choose your dreams. Most people are not lazy, they're misaligned. They're stuck in loops of distraction, urgency, and emotional avoidance. When you become aware of where your time is bleeding out, you're no longer powerless. You start seeing the truth behind the excuses. You stop blaming the clock and start owning your choices. And that ownership, that moment of awareness, is where transformation begins. If you want to stop wasting time and start living fully, it all begins with one brutally honest question. Where is your time actually going? Because until you face that, nothing changes. Once you do, everything can. Time only becomes meaningful when it's aligned with what truly matters to you. That's why the second key to reclaiming your life is to clarify your priorities, not the ones society hands you, not the ones buried under your to-do list, but the ones that come from the deepest part of you. Without this clarity, even your most productive days can leave you feeling empty. You might be checking off boxes, meeting deadlines, and appearing successful, but if none of it connects to your core, you're just moving faster in the wrong direction. That's how people burn out, by spending their time chasing goals that were never theirs to begin with. To stop wasting time and start living fully, you have to define what a full life actually looks like for you. That means stripping away external expectations and tuning into your internal compass. What do you value more than anything? What do you want to be remembered for? What kind of relationships, work, and daily experiences light you up instead of draining you? These aren't abstract questions. They are anchors. And without them, you drift. Life becomes a reaction instead of creation. Your energy gets scattered across commitments that don't reflect who you are. Start by examining what you say you want, and then ask yourself if your actions reflect that. If you say health matters, but you never prioritize rest or movement, there's a disconnect. If you say family is important, but your calendar is packed with everything, but time with loved ones, something's out of alignment. This isn't about guilt. It's about truth. Clarity demands honesty. And once you have that honesty, you gain the power to realign everything. You stop living by default and start living by design. When you're clear on what matters, decision-making becomes simpler. You don't need to agonize over every choice. You know what gets a yes and what deserves a no. You start creating boundaries not from fear, but from focus. You stop trying to do everything and instead give your energy to the few things that actually matter. That shift alone can change your entire life. Because clarity cuts through chaos. It eliminates confusion, distraction, and comparison. It replaces overwhelm with direction. It's not that you'll never get busy again. It's that your busyness will serve a purpose that actually feeds your soul. Without clarity, even your effort becomes a form of avoidance. You keep doing and doing because slowing down would force you to face the uncomfortable truth that you've been pouring your energy into the wrong things. But once you get clear, you don't have to outrun that truth anymore. You get to live in alignment with it. And alignment is where fulfillment begins. The moment you stop chasing everything and start choosing based on what really matters to you, time starts working for you, not against you. It becomes a tool of creation, not consumption. And that's when you begin to feel truly alive. If you want to take your time back, you have to get bold about what doesn't belong in your life anymore. The third step is not gentle, it's aggressive. Eliminate the non-essentials ruthlessly, not politely, not gradually, ruthlessly. Because every unnecessary task, commitment, or distraction that stays in your life is costing you something vital. Your energy, your focus, and your future. The truth is, most people are drowning in things that don't matter, but they're too afraid to let them go. They're stuck saying yes to everything and everyone because they've never truly learned the power of no. But until you clear space, nothing new and meaningful can grow. You don't need more time. You need fewer distractions, fewer obligations, fewer meaningless meetings, endless notifications, and empty habits. Look at your calendar and your to-do list right now. How much of it moves the needle? How much of it is just noise? Most people spend the majority of their time reacting to other people's priorities instead of acting on their own. They fill their days with things that feel urgent but aren't important. This is the trap of busyness. It makes you feel like you're accomplishing something, but in reality, you're just running in circles, exhausting yourself with nothing to show for it. Elimination is a discipline. It's the ability to look at everything you're doing and ask, is this necessary? Is this aligned? Is this worth it? And if the answer is no, it needs to go no matter how long you've been doing it, no matter who expects of you, no matter how uncomfortable it feels to walk away. Because freedom doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing less of what doesn't matter. And that requires courage. The courage to disappoint others, to break habits, to walk away from comfort zones and outdated versions of yourself. People often confuse being busy with being valuable. They think if they're always available, always working, always multitasking, they must be doing something right. But real value comes from focus, from being fully present and fully intentional with what you choose to give your time to. When you eliminate the non-essentials, you reclaim your clarity. You gain mental bandwidth. You create white space, the space where creativity, rest, and breakthroughs can finally breathe. This isn't about doing less for the sake of it. It's about doing less so you can do what matters with excellence, energy, and integrity. It's about refusing to be owned by your calendar or your inbox. It's about choosing depth over distraction. Because every yes costs you something. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your entire life saying yes to things that steal your time, bury your potential, and keep you small. So the moment you decide to cut the clutter, cancel the unnecessary, and clear your path, you don't just free your schedule. You free yourself. Designing a daily routine that actually works isn't about filling your day with endless tasks or forcing yourself into a rigid system. It's about building a structure that supports who you are, where you're going, and how you function best. Most people fail at routines not because they lack discipline, but because they try to live inside someone else's system. They adopt morning routines from influencers or time-blocking methods from productivity gurus without ever asking if it fits their own rhythm, responsibilities, or reality. The result? Frustration, guilt, and eventually burnout. A powerful routine isn't something you force yourself into. It's something that fuels you and keeps you aligned. To stop wasting time and start living fully, you need to stop designing your day around pressure and start designing it around purpose. That means identifying when you're most focused, most creative, most energized, and protecting that time like it's sacred. That's your prime time. That's when your best work, your deepest thinking, and your clearest decisions happen. If you don't own that window, distractions will. Emails, messages, interruptions. They will hijack your potential before it even wakes up. You have to build your day around you, not around the chaos of the outside world. That's how intentional living begins. Start with anchors, not goals. What do you need every single day to feel strong, clear, and focused? It might be a quiet hour in the morning, a walk at lunch, or an evening without screens. These non-negotiables are the spine of your routine. Without them, you drift. With them, you rise. Then, decide what your top 3 priorities are for each day. Not a list of 15. Not a wall of sticky notes. Just 3. The things that move your life forward, even if only by an inch. Those are your focus points, and they deserve your best energy, not what's left over after the distractions have had their turn. The most powerful routines are simple and repeatable. They reduce friction. They create rhythm. They make it easier to show up, even on the hard days. They remove the need to constantly decide what to do next, because the path is already built. That's how momentum builds. That's how consistency becomes a habit. But remember, your routine is a living thing. It needs to evolve as your life evolves. It should be flexible enough to adapt, but strong enough to keep you grounded. The goal isn't to control every hour. The goal is to create flow, where your energy, attention, and purpose are moving in the same direction. You don't need a perfect day. You need a powerful one. One where you're in charge of your time instead of reacting to it. One where your actions reflect your priorities instead of your stress. And when your routine supports your best self, not your overwhelmed self, you don't just become more productive. You become more alive, more present, more in control. That's when your time starts to serve you instead of slipping away. That's when your routine becomes your foundation for freedom. Living fully begins when you stop reacting and start acting with intention. Reaction is a survival state. It keeps you stuck in a loop of urgency, pressure, and stress. Intention is a creative state. It puts you back in control. Most people spend their days reacting to emails, messages, interruptions, moods, problems, and noise. They wake up and instantly plug into a world that demands their attention before they've even decided what they want from the day. It's no wonder they feel drained, scattered, and unfulfilled. Because when you live in reaction mode, your time belongs to everything but you. The shift begins the moment you decide to break that cycle and lead your day from a place of clarity, not chaos. Acting with intention doesn't mean you'll never be interrupted again. It means you'll stop letting those interruptions own you. You'll know what matters most, and you'll protect it. You'll wake up with direction instead of confusion. Before you check the world, you'll check in with yourself. What do I need today? What do I want to feel? What truly deserves my energy? These are the questions that define intention. Because intention isn't just a mindset. It's a weapon against distraction, indecision, and regret. It turns a scattered life into a focused mission. It turns time from something you chase into something you command. When you live intentionally, your calendar changes. You no longer say yes out of guilt, fear, or habit. You choose based on alignment. You don't let the most urgent voice dictate your next move. You decide what's important and you follow through. That level of ownership over your choices is rare and powerful. It doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. You pause before you act. You respond instead of reacting. You breathe before you decide. And in that space, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your power. This isn't about being rigid or robotic. It's about being awake. Most people are so conditioned to chase the next task, the next notification, the next problem, that they never stop to ask, is this even worth it? Is this how I want to spend my life? Living with intention means you ask those questions constantly and you act accordingly. You stop operating on autopilot and start creating on purpose. You become the architect of your day, not a bystander watching it happen. And when that becomes your default mode, everything begins to shift. You start making decisions based on values, not emotions. You start prioritizing growth over comfort. You start leading your time instead of losing it. And the best part? You don't need more hours. You just need to stop giving them away to things that don't deserve them. Intention is how you multiply your time. It's how you take an ordinary day and turn it into something meaningful. It's how you stop surviving and start shaping a life that reflects who you are. Progress doesn't come from massive leaps. It comes from consistent microactions that build unstoppable momentum. The sixth key is to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start moving forward with small, deliberate steps every single day. Too many people waste time overthinking, overplanning, or waiting to feel ready. They believe they need clarity, confidence, or ideal conditions before they begin. But the truth is, action creates clarity. Action builds confidence. And action is the only way to shift from stuck to unstoppable. Waiting is a trap disguised as preparation. The way out is movement. Tiny, focused, intentional movement. Microactions are powerful because they bypass resistance. They're too small to fail, too quick to fear, and too meaningful to ignore. They don't trigger overwhelm, and that's exactly why they work. You don't need to write a whole book. Just commit to 10 minutes of writing today. You don't need to transform your life in a day. Just wake up 1 hour earlier and own that time. You don't need to conquer your fears all at once. Just take one step toward what scares you and keep moving. These small acts, repeated with purpose, compound over time into results that feel like magic. But they're not. They're the reward of consistency, not intensity. When you take microactions, you teach yourself that progress is always possible. You stop thinking in extremes, all or nothing, success or failure, and start thinking in forward motion. You realize that momentum doesn't require perfection. It just requires movement. And with each step, no matter how small, you shift your identity. You stop being someone who dreams and start becoming someone who does. Your brain begins to recognize a new pattern, one of execution, not avoidance. And that new identity becomes your greatest source of power. Every time you take a microaction, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. You're building self-trust. You're proving to yourself that you're not stuck, you're not lazy, and you're not broken. You were just overwhelmed by trying to do too much at once. But with small, strategic steps, overwhelm loses its grip. You start to see that time isn't your enemy. It's your ally when used wisely. One action at a time, you reclaim your power, your direction, and your belief in what's possible. Momentum is not built in explosive moments. It's built in the quiet discipline of doing the next right thing again and again. These tiny wins add up. They compound. They become fuel. And when you look back, you'll see that everything changed not because of one huge breakthrough, but because you finally stopped waiting and started walking. That's how change happens. That's how time starts to work for you, not against you. And that's how you move from surviving your days to building a life that matters. Reclaiming your time is not just about doing more. It's about feeling more. The final key is to reclaim joy, presence, and power in your life. Because without these, even the most productive day is hollow. So many people are chasing efficiency, achievement, and success, but they've forgotten what it feels like to be fully alive. They've traded wonder for routine, traded passion for pressure, and traded their presence for endless distraction. But time is not meant to be managed. It's meant to be lived. You were not put on this earth just to meet deadlines, attend meetings, and check boxes. You were meant to experience life deeply, to connect meaningfully, and to create intentionally. Joy doesn't come from adding more to your life. It comes from noticing what's already there. It's found in the small moments that pass unnoticed when your mind is always on the next task or the next worry. Presence is your superpower. It's what turns an ordinary morning into a sacred ritual, a conversation into a connection, and a breath into a reset. But to reclaim presence, you have to first slow down. You have to stop treating rest as a reward and start treating it as a requirement. You have to stop measuring your value by your output and start honoring your capacity to feel, to dream, and to just be. Power returns the moment you realize you're not a victim of your time. You're the author of it. The world will always be loud, demanding, and distracting. There will always be more to do. But when you live from a place of alignment and clarity, you stop letting that noise pull you away from what matters. You don't just respond to life. You lead it. And that leadership doesn't come from control. It comes from deep self-awareness. When you know what brings you joy, what grounds your presence, and what fuels your power, you make different choices. You stop running from moment to moment and start owning your moments. You begin to infuse your days with intention and meaning. You laugh more, breathe deeper, and connect with others without the constant pull to be somewhere else, do something else, or prove something to someone. You feel strong not because everything is easy, but because you've stopped abandoning yourself in the name of being productive. You've chosen to live fully not someday, but now, not after the next achievement, but in the middle of today. That's what reclaiming time really means. It's not just getting things done, it's getting your life back. And when you live from that place, anchored in joy, grounded in presence, and fueled by power, every hour becomes sacred. Every moment becomes a choice. And every day becomes a chance to create the life you were always meant to live.